Hello, and thanks for coming to my session. What if you did it anyway? This is all about, it's about my entrepreneurial journey. It feels super weird going through my own life story and business, I guess. But I hope by sharing this with you, you'll get a little bit of inspiration and perhaps think, why don't you just go for it anyway? Before we get started, I should introduce myself. My name is Matt Hughes. I'm the king of video, largely because the domain name was available. If you're going to search for Matt Hughes, you'll find there's a UFC fighter and you'll find an author, and it's really difficult to beat those people on in the SEO world. So I was like, what can I call myself, personal branding wise? I searched for kingofvideo.co.uk and it was available. So I am the king of video. But it's not that I took a Udemy course or anything like that, and I've just declared myself the king of video. Actually, I had a video production company for 7 years. That's what we're going to focus on here. And I've also been in business doing various video things now, I think, for about 12 years, which blows my mind, really. I'm also a dad, husband, geek, rebel. I'm a potty mouth, and always unapologetically me. And you'll probably see me in a field at a gig. Or a festival during the summer, as that's what I like to spend my time doing. We're going to go through then and start right at the start here. It's right at the start, but prior to this, anyone that's ever had their first jobs, I worked in a camping shop. I worked. I used to wash cars. That was my actual first job when I was 15. I'm 42 now. When I was 15, I wash cars. So there's a couple of jobs before this, but my first proper job was after I failed to attend college. So I went to three different colleges, one for 2 weeks, one for 5 months, and never really stuck it out. It was a really difficult time during my sort of teenage years, late teen years. And I ended up doing an IT apprenticeship. The actual apprenticeship company folded whilst I was doing this. It didn't really work out too well in terms of the apprenticeship, but I did manage to go from £75 a week to £14,000 a year at Wigston and QEI college. It was actually called QE College. That's what most people refer to it as. And strangely, sometime later, when my daughter was 16, she actually ended up going to this college, and like me, also quit before she did her exams. So it was a great experience, though. Like, it was the first thing I did with IT. I always loved IT. I was building computers when I was 8 years old. I was doing coding when I was 15. So to get to this at 18, I think I was about 18 at this time, was a really great job to get. And all of the people I worked with had been through the apprenticeship scheme. So my main boss had started as an apprentice at QE, and then built his way up to be the IT manager. And he's still there now, actually, strangely, all these years later. So it was a good progression I could have had if I'd have stayed here. And I remember getting that moving from £75 a week to £14,000 and getting the letter, the offer. It was after 9 months of being there. I was like, oh my God, this is loads of money. I've got £1,000 a week. This is so exciting. And of course it was for a 20-odd-year-old. And then slowly, as where was I? So I moved away from that job, and I went to another school in between this and Catalyst. I actually worked for another school for a little while. And then I moved to Catalyst, which was like a programming company, software company. And they put on the advert that they were forward thinking. They were not forward thinking at all. They were using a programming language from 1983, which is the year I was born. So it was a bit of a strange place to be. Didn't stay there very long. But during that time, I started Click IT Solutions, which was basically 14K was fine, but I was living with my now wife and my girlfriend at the time. We met in 2005, and we had our own house. And of course, 14 grand, she was on about the same. So it just didn't really go very far, once we've done our rent and mortgage and everything, rent and bills and everything, we just didn't have very much money. So I was like, I'll start this Click IT Solutions. And I had this professionally designed, believe it or not, this is a professional design. This is way before Canva. It would have been done in Illustrator or something like that. I managed to get an 0844 number. So this was a free number that you could get at the time. There used to be this service where you could get domain names for free and phone numbers for free. And I had a mobile number that I picked this number. So it's really easy to remember: 07908 298 298. So I really was thinking along the lines of like, how can I make it easy for people to call me and get some of this work done? And actually did loads of work. I didn't pay tax on any of it. I didn't really know that I needed to pay tax on any of this stuff. I was just trying to earn some extra money. And I did this for about a year. I remember there's a time where I'd printed out loads of Google. It wasn't Google Maps, I don't think then, but it was something like Google Maps. I printed it all out, and we'd been and leafleted the whole area. I printed 5,000 leaflets out. We flyed the whole area. I got my cousin involved. I got Amy involved. We really went to town to try and get, and I got loads of customers, loads of random, weird, and wonderful customers. Did laptop jobs, all kind of good stuff. So it's my first unofficial business. Like I say, it wasn't official because I didn't realize that I needed to set up a company or pay tax or any of those things. And then in July 2007, 2 years after meeting Amy, we had our first child, Poppy. And this kind of changed my view of life a little bit. I managed to get this job at Coventry Council, and I was earning £21,000 at that time. And it was these two schools, they couldn't afford to pay for a IT person independently, so they joined forces, put the money together, and they hired someone full time. It was 2.5 days at each school. But after it was about 9 months there, actually. I was term time only. It was about 9 months, and I managed to get myself suspended just before Poppy was born, which was really tough. I don't think these dates are quite right, actually, when I think of looking at them. But Poppy was just born. I got suspended 6 months full pay, and I got suspended because I basically set up the IT for them at these schools. It was really, to make a long story short, they would send an email and it would take 2 hours for the staff to send an email to the tech support, which was me. And I was like, this is weird. Why would it take 2 hours? And it was going through the local authority all around the houses and ending up back in my inbox. So what I did is I set up their own email system, their email server. It's called Microsoft Exchange. I set it up in their environment. Their emails would come through immediately, so I would be able to help them straight away. And the council complained that I'd set up this service and said, what if Matt leaves? Who's going to be able to look after this service? It's very technical. Incidentally, I left, and that service was still running 5 years later, the server that I'd set up with the email. So clearly I'd done a good job of it. But I posted this online on a forum. I posted it on the internet, didn't really think about what would happen. The council saw it and said I brought the local authority in disrepute because I talked about the money that they got paid for the service. So it was kind of my first involvement with HR, understanding like what that whole process is about disciplinaries, all that kind of stuff. And it felt awful at the time. Poppy was just born. The great thing is I got 6 months paid paternity leave. They put me through a whole investigation. After a month or two, I should have been invited back to work, but instead they forgot to send me the letter. And that's the exact words they said to me. We forgot to send you the letter. So it was 6 months, and I eventually got invited back. But by the time I'd got invited back, I found another job at this place, Samworth Enterprise Academy. And so I quit my job and went to work there instead. And then, well, you would not believe it, but the same thing happened. I was there for 3 years. Now during this time, I really got to grips with something called SharePoint, Microsoft 365, Office 365, as you guys might know it. Similar to Google Apps if you're a Google user. And we got featured. I managed to get us featured in Microsoft's, like a Microsoft case study. We were one of the first academies in the country to release Windows 7 when it came out. I think we were second, only to someone else that managed to do it just slightly before us. But we were really forward thinking in this environment. But what I wanted to do, again, £20,000 when another child was coming, I was like, this is not enough. We're struggling here, and I've got another kid on the way. So I started this other business, this one, Engage Multimedia. I'll come back to it in a second. And basically what happened is when I started that business, long story short, 2 days before Willow was born, these ladies, the headmistress of the academy and the HR woman, appeared at the office where I worked where I'd got this business, and they accused me of moonlighting. My wife's nan also died at that same time. She was in hospital. My daughter was coming 2 days later. My wife's nan died. I got suspended, and my daughter was born within a week. Again, as you can imagine, probably a pretty horrendous time. And this is, I mean, imagine my wife. Like, who is this guy? Why does he keep getting suspended? Anyway, the point is, I'm not a good employee, right? I've got an entrepreneurial mind. What's clear to me is that I don't like being told what to do. The rebel inside me says, no, this is not for you. And during that time, I remember sitting there in the Samworth office and working out at £20,000 that it would take me 50 years to earn £1 million. I remember sitting there thinking, this can't be it. Like, I was looking at stories of these entrepreneurs and they were making loads of money. I was thinking, this can't be it. 50 years, I'll be dead by the time I make £1 million. Like, how can I do this in a different way? And we started this company, Engage Multimedia, but the problem was, again, we talked about money. Starting a business, we actually started it as a CIC. Before this became a limited company, as you can see here, we started it as a CIC or something like that, equivalent social enterprise, that's what it was. And we just weren't making a lot of money. I was doing these courses for people. We weren't making a lot of money. So I got offered this job by the company that ran a conference where I did my first public speaking gig. I did this public speaking gig, and the guy said to me, look, if you can do that, you can come and be a trainer for us. So just down the road from me, this company called Combined Knowledge offered me a training company, and it was amazing. Like, I got paid 30k plus a company car. I got to travel to Germany, and I taught Adidas. I worked with GlaxoSmithKline, Tesco, M&S, like all these big corporate companies. I was training them in this SharePoint system that I'd learned at Samworth Enterprise Academy. So it was absolutely brilliant. Really, really loved it. But the guy that ran it, I really didn't like him very much. He had these certain views of certain things. Like, I got this public speaking gig in where was it, in Germany, in Berlin. It was a workshop. I got paid €2,000, or maybe it was £2,000, and I can't remember, but to do this workshop. And I was like, oh my god, I'm getting a month's worth of pay to deliver a workshop at this gig. And he basically told me I wasn't allowed to accept it because it was a competitor of his. So I did that one, but he said if it comes again, you're gonna have to not do it. So I was like, well, again, I don't really like being told what to do. I'm gonna leave, and I ended up at this company called ID, Intelligent Decisioning, and became a full-time developer. The problem with the developer role is they showed me what it was like to be a contractor. So they paid me £300 a day for the first 2 weeks, and then which was like £1,500 a week. And then they basically paid me that. I came out with that a month afterwards. So they paid me as a contractor. Then they took me on full time. And then I got paid far less. So I got like what I made in a month, I got in a week as a contractor. So they kind of showed me what the contractor life was like, but then made me a full-time employee. So that didn't really work out for very long. And of course, then I moved to become a contractor. Actually, with the job with ID, I effectively got sacked from that job because they said that I was too focused on my own personal brand, which is so interesting that was the case. They recognized that that's what I was doing. And they, I left by mutual consent. I got sacked, basically. And I said to Amy at the time, I said, look, just give me a week to find a contract. Like, I'm sure every bit of evidence is showing me that I can get a contract. Give me a week. This was in August, I think. And then I managed to find a contract within that week. I got paid, I think it was $450 a day, but I generally work between sort of $450 and $600 a day. So it was around £120,000 a year. And going from 30 to 35k to 120k is life changing for someone like me, who's a working class guy, who's been poor. And I mean, like, when Poppy was young, I remember taking money out of her piggy bank to pay for bread because we had no money. Like, when I say poor, I really mean poor. Not like some people I meet and they say, oh, we're poor, and then they say we've only got like £5,000 in our bank left, and I'm like, what do you mean? That's not poor. You've got savings. Like, come at me when you're stealing money from your daughter to pay for bread. So when we got to this was amazing, life-changing stuff. And what really happened then, what earning this kind of money affords you is the ability to start thinking in an entrepreneurial way without the negatives of not having money. And now I know for some of you, you might be thinking, well, I'm not earning that money, Matt. I can't, I'm only on a quarter of that, half of that, whatever it might be. How am I going to be able to do this stuff? Now, I want you just to think about all the way back here, like, this Click IT Solutions was a side hustle for me. I did the first job. I came home and I was doing this in the evenings, until midnight sometimes to get this to do it. So, like, in terms of hustle culture, sometimes that's the kind of thing that you have to do to try and make it work to get to this point. Fortunately, I had the IT contracting role that helped me get to this point, but there's other ways you can do that now, more now than ever. In 2012, when I did this, there was no Lovable, there was no vibe coding or side hustles that you can get that online that you can do now. Even the fact that I'm delivering this in the way I am now was just not available to me. So don't think that you can't do it as a side hustle. You absolutely can. And I'm going to share with you some of the ways I've done that as well. So really, this gave me the chance to be entrepreneurial and to decide to create some stuff. And I just wanted to show you some of the brands that I've created, some of the businesses I've created, and I'll talk about a few of these, more focused on the successful ones. But I just wanted to show you the time they stayed alive, some of these brands. So these ones all lasted a year or less. I think Secret Success Club and Growth Club, they slightly longer. But pretty much everything else here didn't last very long. Hazel Sky, if you looked at my company's house about me, you'll see that's 5 years old, that Hazel Sky. But really, it was the limited company that some of these other brands sat in. So I'd still call it as 0 to 12 months. Flucidity was my contracting brand. I actually met a guy in the hallways in Vegas at a SharePoint conference. We both decided we wanted to create an IT consultancy, and so we created Flucidity. Didn't really last very long, but it was interesting whilst we did. Kinettle Media, IT and Websites was off the back of creating Kinettle. So Kinettle I ran for 7 years. We're going to talk about that in a second. And these other brands came off the back of that. I really started to expand those brands, but it kind of came crashing down later on. So let's focus on this one then, Kinettle and Forget Me Not. So it's a video production company. Started this just after I became a contractor. So after about a year of earning really good money, I was like, what else can I do? I've got all this money. I actually ended up doing less work as a contractor than I'd done before, like ridiculously less work. So I've got all this extra time as well. I was like, must be able to do something else. And I said, I'm going to start a video production company. And I specifically remembered speaking to somebody. It was a guy I knew that worked at Combined Knowledge. And I was speaking to him on Messenger, and he said to me, Matt, what the fuck do you know about video? And I said, nothing, but I'm doing it anyway. And I guess this is probably the first lesson I want to talk to you about, really, is Richard Branson talks about saying yes to everything. And I really believe just doing stuff anyway and figuring it out as you go is the way you should be. Like, no challenge is really that big that you can't figure it out. Sometimes you look at scale and how people have got to where they've got. Like Richard Branson's a great example. Like, I couldn't just go, oh, I'm going to create Virgin Group and have all these amazing companies. There's loads of steps I've got to take before that. But I might be able to start like a smaller one of Richard Branson's companies and see how that would go. So my probably my most successful thing to date really is Kinettle. And even though it's successful in a way, the things that I'm doing now I still feel are more successful because of the lessons I learned here. So Kinettle was the video production company that we had. We made 1,500 commercial videos, 60 wedding films across the 7 years that I had it. We traveled the world. You can see some of the places that we went to. I've been to Vegas 5 times thanks to that company. And it started really by building a portfolio. So the guy that I started it with, we wanted to get a wedding film. I went to him. He'd just finished university. His name was Jordan. And I said, look, have you created a wedding film? And he sent me this wedding film. It's like a music video to the backing of Two Door Cinema Club. And I was like, oh, this is so amazing. I'm like, let's start a video company. And that's what we did. And we just started building portfolio. All the public speaking that I was doing at the time, I said I had that public speaking gig. I just went to all those events and said, hey, do you want a video for your event? The one where I said I got paid £2,000 or euros for that gig, that one, I went to them, for example, and we ended up filming their conference the next 3 years, and they went to Dublin and they went to Copenhagen and various different places. Like, it was a great way to get in the door with a lot of people. One of our first early gigs that we did portfolio wise was in Vegas. We got paid expenses. We didn't make any money from it, but we got paid expenses, and then we had all this great footage from Vegas. Like, it really set us up as a real deal kind of business, even though we were just making it up as we go along. And after 6 months, we decided to start charging what I got paid contracting wise, £500 a day. So that meant if I took a day off to do the video stuff, I would get paid the same amount of money. That's how I justified it to myself. And my idea was that the more video stuff we did, the less I'd do contracting, and eventually I'd quit it. And I never really did. Still doing contracting at the moment. During that time, we employed 8 apprentices. Only one of them lasted more than all the way up to 12 months. The one she actually left in the end went to the company that effectively helped close Kinetal, which was the long story short of it is that with Kinetal, we ran it for 5 years. My first employee, he left, and he took a load of my clients with him. And started his own business. He said he was not going to do. He said he was going to do his own thing. He wasn't going to touch any of my clients. But within a week, he started taking some of the clients. So we continued 2 years after this. But I think I just fell out of love. I felt so betrayed. I think I fell out of love with the business, which is kind of the negative side of it. But actually, I just loved running it with him during that time. You know, we had such fun together. We traveled the world together, and that kind of betrayal meant the passion I had for the company kind of went with it, I think. So he was one of the 2 full-time editors. We had a Polish lady that joined us. She was brilliant. I really felt that those 2 were going to run it together. And then she left to move to California. And like, I can totally understand moving to California. Why would you want to be in Leicester versus California? But I was gutted when she left, because she was really switched on, really smart. And these are some of the lessons I learned. Like, what I should have done with Kinetal is remove me from the business straight away. I tried to do this during that, and although I say it's a lesson that I learned, you know, remove yourself from the business, I still think this is definitely the thing that everybody should think about from the start. I probably didn't do it in a structured way. I should have created a really simple systems and processes. I should have made the contracts clearer about like who can do what. I could have protected the business from that guy leaving and taking some of my clients. But you should definitely think about that from the start when you're doing this stuff, is remove yourself from the business. You don't want to be the person that does everything. There's a great book called The E-Myth, which talks about why you should do that. Second thing I should have done is hired a salesperson. You can't do all of this stuff yourself. I think I'm a great salesperson for my own businesses, but you definitely should have someone dedicated to this stuff. I think you can accelerate your growth if you had a dedicated salesperson. This is where we're going now with, I think, with our events business. And then I should have focused on the business more. I should have made that a priority rather than my contracting stuff. There was a couple of times where I could have left contracting and just gone all in with Kinetal, and I think I should have done that at the time. Actually, in retrospect, I'm probably glad that I didn't, because it kept us afloat when we closed the business. And I should have hired a coach sooner. I didn't even know when we started Kinetal what a coach was, a business coach. We kind of had one with Engage Multimedia, but he was a bit of a snake oil salesman. He didn't really seem to give as much value at all. But I've had some great coaches during and after Kinetal, so I think I probably should have hired a coach sooner, and got support with setting this business up and running it properly. Now, during all of this process, when that guy left and took a load of my clients, I kind of had a bit of a like, what do I do moment with this? Like, do I continue it, which we did continue it for 2 years, and do I do something else? And I kind of came up with this King of Video brand then in 2018. I remember I went to my first YouTube conference in LA. It was amazing seeing these great people that were working in video and marketing, and I really, it got the fire back in my belly. I started running like Facebook Live challenges and helping businesses with video in general. And then it wasn't till about sort of 2020, 2021 that I started moving that towards YouTube. So now I focus on helping businesses with YouTube, but it was originally just video as part of the video King of Video brand. And then we closed the business in 2020. So February 29th, 2020, the video company closed. We filmed events and that kind of thing. So if we hadn't have closed it, it would have closed anyway. But we closed it to launch Hazel Sky and Repurpose Lab. And I remember I was so excited. We got a new office, we got different staff. Repurpose Lab and Editing on tap with the business we started. I'd got a great coach at the time that was helping us with setting up this new business. And in the first 2 weeks in March 2020, we'd made £10,000. And I was like, yes, this is it. I finally found the thing which I can sell really easily, that we can deliver really easily. And of course, then the pandemic happened. And it just, I started all of these different things to kind of try and bring money in, because it was just so difficult during that time. So I kind of did anything anyone would pay us to do. The 3 things I've still got available now, the 3 things I'm working on are the top 3, but the rest are all kind of things that, and I've highlighted them this way to show you that the things that I've created. So these are the ones, the blue ones are ones we created in lockdown. The yellow ones are a partnership. So I started a web design company with a woman. We ran that for about 5 or 6 months. I love the branding for that. We created this beautiful branding, was doing really well. And then after Christmas, she left. She just decided it wasn't for her anymore. Within the week she left, I got like 3 big clients. I ended up with like 20 grand's worth of work. And I was so gutted because we'd made like a couple of £1,000 during the first 5 months. We'd done all this prep work. And then soon as she left, I got these big clients. I was like, damn, if she'd have just stuck around, we really could have made that into something good. Last CRM, I've got a business partner called Emma, and we run that now. That's a SaaS company that we have where we white label High Level if anyone uses that. So we're still going strong with Last CRM. But I just wanted to point them out as partnerships. And then these 4 here are communities that I started. Growth Club and Secret Success Club were kind of masterminds, low-cost masterminds. Got 100 plus people in both of those each time that I ran them, but then they don't exist anymore. So with all that being said, that's kind of a potted history of all of this. And I hope you found it interesting, but I just wanted to pose this question to you. What is success? Steve Jobs says that I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful one is pure perseverance. I hope you can see here from all of this that that's exactly what I've had, is perseverance. Because even now, with the events that we have, which is the successful, what I think is and will be the successful stuff going forward, it's taken real perseverance. And with the events and training that we do now, the last 2 years has showed me that perseverance through adversity is probably the most important part of it. Because for most of this time, I could have quit this and just not bothered doing it. But let me talk about TubeFest and the Festival of AI. So we moved to events in 2023. I went to that event in 2018, the YouTube conference, and I went to a couple of more in the US, an event called Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. Really loved them, but they cost about $5,000 to go to. You know, when you've got flights, hotels, spending money, all that kind of stuff that happens, it's a lot of money. And I was like, why can't we bring something like that to the UK? There doesn't seem to be any video marketing, YouTube kind of event in the UK, but we need that kind of thing. So when I was in San Diego, I registered the domain name in 2023, March 2023. I didn't really do anything for the next 6 months. I had a great summer, and then when I got to Vid Summit, which was in 2023, I was like, right, let's do this. Let's make this happen in 2024. And we ran our first event in 2024. I'm going to show you some stuff about TubeFest in a second, but we'd never ran an event at this scale. Like, again, going back to what I said to you about just doing it and kind of figuring it out, we did do that. And of course, we spent way more money than we should have done, to the tune of about £50,000 putting it on. We pretty much broke even. But what happened the day after my event is I had this IT contract that would have gone right up to the end of the year, and I didn't have it anymore. It got cancelled, and so I'd just broken even on this event. I was so excited to run the next one, and finances just dropped through the floor. So we really struggled after this one, but the event itself was amazing. It was such a great success. Now, these photos are from the 2 events. I'll talk about year 2 in a second, but these photos are from the 2 events, and you can see the kind of thing that we're doing here. Like, the venue we've got is brilliant, the food is brilliant, the speakers that we got are brilliant. The vibe of the event, someone said to me, it feels like a big hug, and I absolutely believe that. And that's the kind of vibe that we have for this. We had 160 people attend, or 160, 140 to 160 attend. I think we sold about 180 for the first event. But the problem was I'd gone too big too soon. So I intended on doing another event in October, and we were going to move it to Dublin, and it just didn't work. We had to postpone it till April. We moved it back to Birmingham, and I think that hurt the second event. So we ended up with about 120 attendees on the second event. It cost us much less. We learnt from the first one. We spent much less money, but again, we broke even because of the lack of attendees in the second one. However, next year for year 3, I'm expecting 500 attendees. We're actually doing a 2-day event. We're doing a workshop day the day before the event. We've got a big party the day before. I've got a really clear structure on how to make this a very profitable event. Just the workshop day alone will help pay for the whole event, and then we've got all the ticket sales from there. And we've already sold 120 tickets to year 3. So I already know, and we've got 7 months left to go, that we're way ahead of the game when it comes to TubeFest 3. And that's because we learned all of those things from the first 2 years. So even though we struggled and it was really hard to get this event in year 2, which was in March this year, April this year, even though we struggled, it feels like it's worth it. And it's worth it because of this. So Festival of AI is our next event, which happens in just 2 days' time. We've got 130 tickets sold. We've made £23,000 in sales, income, and the events cost us about £10,000 in comparison. So we've made it's a profitable event for us. So this was really me going, can we run another event in October? Can we make some money from it? And then can we do that over and over again? So now we have 2 events, Festival of AI, TubeFest. Every 6 months there's an event, a big event, and we can start to look at how we're making those things profitable. So just by saying yes, just by doing something that people kept saying, oh, Matt, you're so courageous for doing these things. You're so brave. Like, why would you do this if you don't know what you're doing? All that kind of stuff. Like, all of those things didn't really seem relevant. I just knew that I wanted to do something cool. And like, if I don't do it, someone else will do it. Again, I want you to think about that. Like, what's stopping you really? Like, if I'd have failed in doing all of these things, the only thing that happens is I learn how to do it better next time, right? Like, I'm not in any worse a position. Hopefully, I'm not in any worse a position having tried and failed at it. But with TubeFest, for example, I learned so much by doing those things. So much so that we can do Festival of AI, where we're doing a lot of the work ourselves. We've not hired anyone to do the work that we did in the previous 2. So this is Festival of AI. It is in 2 days. It's in Leicester. If you want to come, you can come to the Festival of AI. Obviously, if you're watching it after the 24th of October, there'll only be replays of Festival of AI 2 available. But at the time of recording, it is in 2 days. And you can get your ticket at festivalofai. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to show you is that as part of running the events, we wanted to have an app. And we've been quoted loads of money for apps, and because we've got into AI, the reason why I set up Festival of AI in the first place is because I wanted to get into AI. I wanted to use my tech skills that I'd had for the last 20 years and start using those to become an expert in AI. My view is in the next 2 years, I'll be one of the UK's biggest experts in AI, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. So you can check back in with me in a year or two's time. So I put on the event to really accelerate the pace in which I could learn all of these things. And one of the things I did discover is vibe coding, which goes back to my development days. And I was like, vibe coding is the view that, just like when you talk to ChatGPT or whatever, vibe coding allows you to have an idea, talk to AI, and it will build an app for you. And so I've done that with Eventable. You can see where I got the name from, right? Um, I built Eventable AI as an app that the people can join, uh, and get to know all about the event. So I built it for Festival of AI. I thought it'd be great to use AI to build an app for the event and then showcase it at the event. Um, it's an app that allows attendees to sign up. There's some gamification that goes on here. They can see the speakers, the sessions, all that kind of stuff, all in a self-contained app. There's a gallery, they can upload photos, all that kind of stuff. So it's brilliant, but I've built it with the view that I can sell this as an app independently later on. So um, I just want you to know that these kind of things are available to you. If you're thinking about, like, what's my side hustles? What am I going to create? Like, if you've got an idea for an app, why not create it and then start selling it? I'm seeing people doing this and making loads of money at the moment. It's something that, as I've seen technology improve over time, the to be able to create an app like this in the way that I've done with vibe coding in a week, it would have taken me months before and a lot more investment. I think it's cost me about $100, and it's taken me about a week of time to build it. And the alternative version of this app that I've been quoted for would have been £1,000 plus £1 for every user every month. So if I'd got 130 people who are going to come to the Festival of AI, it would have paid £130 every month for those people to live in this app. And it cost me just $100 to build and deploy this whole thing. So you can do this too. So to summarize, what if you did it anyway? I want you to think about these points. For everything that I've done, for everything that I feel is successful or a failure or whatever it might be, all of it's come from taking chances on something and just saying yes. I want you to think about, what could I say yes to now where I don't get to 65 and think, what if I'd have done it? Instead, think about, what if you did it anyway? What's the worst that can happen here? And everybody has their own version of that. For me, I'm the breadwinner in my house, and so the worst thing that could have happened to me is that I was poor and I couldn't put food on my table. But I've been there before. I know what that looks like. So everything else seemed better than that. So it didn't seem that risky to me. That's what a lot of people say with the events is, oh, it's so risky, and I'm like, I don't think so. Don't want you to miss out on opportunities. I've been approached by somebody to become a CTO for their business, and it means that I've got to pick up this development stuff. The vibe coding. I've got to learn development in the detail that I used to do 10 years ago in order to become the CTO. And so part of me building that app was me just getting back up to speed, because I want to take this CTO position. I think it sounds amazing. Why would I not doing it? I don't want to miss out on that opportunity. Obviously earning better money is great. I'd love to say that's always the case. It's not a straight line. You don't just suddenly earn better money. It took us ages in Kinetal to become profitable and start making really good money. The best part of 5 years really, before we really could see like loads of money coming in. And of course that all went south when my guy left. But the opportunity to earn better money, like, it's unlimited. When I think about that 50 years to get to £1 million, that was just so depressing. Like, with creating your own thing and running it yourself and being passionate about it, there's no limits to what you can earn. So why would you not do it? I'm not going to wait for someone else to tell me what I can or can't earn. And doing what's important to you. Like, for me, what's important to me is I enjoy bringing people together. So the event side of things, I love bringing communities together. I love bringing people together. I love fostering environments that help people collaborate. What I've noticed in Two Fests, and what I know will happen with Festival of AI, is that when people come together in rooms like that, cool stuff happens. And with Two Fest, I've already seen some great collaborations come out of that. I can't wait to see what happens in the future as well. And that's important to me. It's not a financial thing that, like, the finances are great, and I definitely want to be super rich with all of this stuff. There's no denying that. I'm not shy about the fact that I want to make a lot of money. But I love the other stuff as well. The thing is, once you get to a point where the money is less of an issue, you start to think like, what impact am I having in the world? What am I doing to help move humanity forward? And as strange as it is, these events where I bring people together, I do believe it's something that helps humanity move forward. I think human connection in an AI world is going to be super important, and so that's why I'm betting on these events being super important. Defining your own success is about asking yourself, what does success mean? Like, I've not met anybody where their success metric is the same as mine. I go back to my why. I think about being at home and having no electricity when I was 8 years old. I remember looking outside at the street lights. There was no electric on. The electric street lights were on, but my house was off, and that's because we'd not paid our electricity bill. Like, so defining success, my success is based on financial metrics. My wife's is different. Hers is based on happiness of the house, of our family, of the people around her. She's a big empath, like those. Our success metrics are different, but we can still be on the same road and heading in the same direction, because we're supportive of each other. So defining what your own success looks like is really important. Do you know, before you go into something, what success looks like? Do you know how to measure against that? And then finally, most importantly, is seeing the light in the dark times. The last 2 years of running these events, and we've been really financially crippled during this time. We're coming out of it now. It's why I can speak so positively about it now. But the last, maybe not 2 years, maybe 12 months really, has been really tough. And so that perseverance, when I think about like just before Fest 2 this year, January to sort of April time, I had to really dig deep and say to Amy, look, this is the right thing to do. It is going to be a success. We are going to be able to pull this off. Just stay focused on where we're going. Trust me, believe in what I'm doing. Even though she'd been through all of those suspensions and all that kind of thing, I'm very blessed to have somebody that trusts me, and trusts the direction that we're going as much as Amy does. But seeing the light in those dark times is really important. And then finally, it turns out that getting suspended was the best promotion I ever had. I didn't really talk about it, but when I was looking at that 50 years to make $1 million, I actually asked for a pay rise at that job, and I was managing at the time about 2,000 users in the system, and 30 servers. There was just me and my boss were really the two people in control of all that stuff. I've never managed an environment bigger than that in terms of users and servers. I've never done as much work as I did at that place, and I was earning £20,000. And when I applied for my pay rise, which would have given me about another £1,500 a year, maybe £100 a month, they told me my job wasn't technical enough. So getting suspended, I think, was the best promotion I ever had. Thank you so much for watching this. I really hope you've got some benefit and it's inspired you in some way to just go out there and try something new. My name is Matt Hughes, King of Video. I'll see you again soon. Thanks so much.